This is 39 Days to Mars. It's a quirky puzzle adventure game it's anecdotal. Obviously it's got a papercraft sort of style, and it's quite a fun little adventure. It's based on two, or maybe just one, depending on if you're going to play it single player. Very quirky Victorian style adventurers deciding they want to take a picnic trip to Mars. And if you go on your own, it can be one player, but it'll still technically be two player because the puzzles are designed for two people. So obviously if you go on your own, you will be taking your cat along with you, and you'll have to play, one player either on the controller or mouse and the other on the keyboards, which makes it still a little awkward because all the puzzles are designed to be quite awkward, which can be quite fun for two players. So, if you're both not necessarily on the same page with the puzzles, it's going to take teamwork and communication, and you're probably going to fuck a lot of things up, especially when there is a time limit to some of the puzzles. Now, I'm going to assume that this single player campaign is a lot more lenient with the puzzles, but there are a few different styles and they do vary them out, so it's not like all the puzzles are definitely the same sort of thing. You've got some rotational ones, you've got some intelligence based ones, you've got some very basic stack and connect sort of puzzles. Now, there are a couple of downsides to this. Whilst I find the sepia tone, quirky paper style quite fun, and like I said during my playthrough, and Yet It Moves is another paper-bound style, and paper-bound itself, and there are quite a few paper-based 2D sort of art styles that I do really quite like. The trouble is that it's a £12 game, so it's £11.39 on Steam, but it took me to go through the whole thing and maybe have a quick re-go. About 1.4 hours game time is what it says. Now, the cynical amongst you might say that they've added the tea scenes in to bulk out the game a bit, so that every time you actually have a crisis on your ship, you have to go and make a cup of tea. But if you ignore that, it's actually adding to the storyline because it goes with the Victorian sort of old style fashion thing where you can't really do anything without a cup of tea, as I've got a cup of tea at my side. You've got to have a cup of tea ready for every disaster. You can't even think about starting to solve the problem with your ship if you haven't had a nice cup of tea. Now, the tea isn't going to be the same every time, and there is a table which I'm going to assume is for two players so that you can set down your cup of tea and make the cup of tea for the other gentleman, and there's probably a lot more interaction with two players. Now, the downside is, again, like I say, for £12, it's a little on the short edge. I expected it to maybe last a couple of hours more, but, saying that, 1.4 hours, it is a quirky and fun design and you will have a lot of fun with it, but maybe not as a solo person. If you're going to buy it, I'd say at that price, definitely it's got to be a co-op experience to get the most out of it. Otherwise, maybe wait for a sale for it to go down a bit cheaper, because at £12 on your own, you're just going to blast through the puzzles and, it'll be fun, but it'll end way too soon. And there are achievements and, there are some variations depending on whether you fail entirely or whether you succeed in a lot of things. And that'll also change the length of the playtime as well. If you instantly know all the puzzles and how to solve them, then you're just going to blast through it in less than 20 minutes. And there isn't even an achievement for completing it in less than 20 minutes. But, the puzzles aren't going to be RNG, they are set. I mean, there are some changing elements depending on which puzzles it is, but for the most part, once you've figured out what you're going to do for that puzzle, that's the main thing that was the problem with the puzzle, and once you know the solution to the problem, then you're pretty much guaranteed to get through it, which is why you can then blast through it in 20 minutes. And there is some replayability if you want to get all the achievements and all of the different experiences that you can see in the game. But at the end of the day, if you just base it on the game itself, the game is pretty good, and it's quirky and fun little adventure, and definitely something that is unusual, especially in a co-op aspect, because you don't normally see these sorts of co-op games, and I guess that's why it stands out and maybe is worth paying a bit extra for. But again, if it's not quite long enough for that price period for you, wait for a sale and it will come along on sale soon enough and go down in price. And at that price, then I'd definitely recommend the purchase. But even then, if you've got someone to play with, I would say it's definitely a recommended experience because it's quirky and fun. And I was a bit disappointed how suddenly it ended and how short it was. But that's something that could always be improved in the future with more games from this developer. And as the first one that I've seen, I would definitely say it's a recommended purchase. So go and check it out for yourself. This is 39 Days to Mars.